Number 9, Lock Song, carrying his colours once again in this race. And a filly by Song. And, for a while there, she just didn't look like she was going to bridge the gap between handicap class and group class. But I think on the evidence of her latest showing that she probably will, Jimmy.
Yes, I agree with you there. She's 13-8 favourite. She ran one of her best races last time up when winning that listed race at Sandown, beating another of today's runners, Bunty Boo. But as you say, she's a lovely filly. Just look at her walking around the paddock there. She really swings her old bottom there. And she's by Song, in fact, is a horse that I rode many seasons ago, and he was a great sprinter. And, well, he's put quite a lot of speed into this, his daughter.
Yes, you wouldn't think that a filly who was able to win, say, an Air Gold Cup, a Portland, and a Stewards Cup could go on winning, because the handicapper always seems to get hold of them. But she's just improving enough, I think, and let's hope that she does well today. Interesting here that Sheikh Mohammed is represented by Keen Hunter. There he is now, winner of the Prix de l'Abbé de Longchamp, also runner-up in that race, and a horse who definitely will love the conditions today.
He will. It was much too firm for him at Newmarket in the July. In fact, he ran a super race behind Hammes because the ground, as we were saying, was riding much too firm on that track. Today, he's got his ground that he loves. He's a high-class horse. He won the Prix de l'Abbé at Longchamp and then was second in it last year, and he's a terrific performer.
Well, earlier, of course, we saw Peter Davis and his namesake, and believe it or not, we've got another similar situation here, because Freddie Lloyd is down there, the human Freddie Lloyd, talking to Jonathan Powell.
Well, we've already had Peter Davis the horse and Peter Davis the man. Now we have Freddie Lloyd the man, and the horse is named after you. Is that right, Freddie?
Yes, that's absolutely right, Jonathan. I think it was about 3 years ago, Michael Hill, the owner, called me one day, I was with Pan American then, and said, Freddie, would you mind if I name a horse after you? I need your permission for Weatherby's. And I said, do I mind? I'll be on the biggest ego trip I've ever been on. And that certainly has been the case.
He's a pretty good horse. He won this race last year.
Yes, he won 4 times last year and won in very convincing style in 1992.
And what are the plans today?
Well, that's something I think between the trainer and the jockey, but the horse is very fit, I understand, and although the going is not as fast as Freddie Lloyd would like, we feel he'll put up a very good performance.
Well, Freddie Lloyd, the horse, is still an entire horse, which is more than can be said for a horse called Bruff Scott, which they had to geld.
Yes, I heard about that.
Well, let's hope you run well.
Thank you very much indeed, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have a full show of betting on this King George Stakes over 5 furlongs.
Well, nothing shifted. Lock Song still favourite, 13-8, but Keen Hunter has changed from 7-2 to 4-1. Paris House still 5-1. Marina Park on its original price too, 7-1. Garra 9-1 from 8. Blighton Lad 16s from 14-1. Freddie Lloyd and El Yassaf 25-1. And Bunty Boo has gone out from 25s to 33-1. Sovereign Grace has shifted from 33s to 50-1 to join Artistic Reef, same price.
Number 2 is Paris House, trained by Jack Berry. Lost his way a little bit last season, but recaptured his very best form with wins at Newmarket and Sandown. And for a couple of strides there, I thought he was going to win the King's Stand. We had about 6 horses stretched across the track, and Paris House was doing his best, but was run out of it by LBO just at the finish.
It was a good performance, that, Jim, because LBO on his day is a very good sprinter, and he was cracking form on that occasion. King's Stand takes a lot of winning. This horse done nothing wrong. The last 150 yards, 200 yards sometimes, you do just see him wander about a little, but he's as genuine as they come. He's won 9 races in his career, and he's got speed to burn.
And also he had Freddie Lloyd, El Yassaf, and also Bunty Boo behind him in that very exciting finish. That's Garra in the foreground, just disappearing. Here we go on to number 10, Marina Park, mount of Dean McEwen, trained by Mark Johnston. They both had a winner today with Mr. Whaley's in the first. And Marina Park, who ran so well in the Pre-Morning last season, she just hasn't quite lived up to very high expectations this year. She ran a fair race, I thought, in the July Cup, though, last time.
Yeah, she seemed to be coming back to a little bit of form there. As you say, that was nearly a surprise in the morning, Jim, because Symphonic won it, but if you remember, the ground was riding very heavy and that day, and I think the heavy ground is going to suit this filly ridden by Dean McCune here today.
Yes, making his way up the course, and let's have a look at the course they will be taking in this 5-furlong King George Stakes, and fairly straightforward, that one.
Yeah, you can't get lost on this one, Jim. Even if it's foggy, you can follow the white rail all the way down. But it is one of the fastest 5 furlongs in the country, and this is a course I'd like to see them have a crack at the world record, because when they leave those stalls, they go from 0 to about close on 50 miles an hour, 45, 50 miles an hour in about 200, 300 yards. And well, they really finish here too. It's a great sensation to ride over 5 furlongs here on a fast animal, and there is one.
Yes, number 11, Sovereign Grace, a filly by Standdown, carrying the colours of Lady Clegg. And she's still got a few very useful types, Lady Clegg, and ridden by Johnny Murtagh.
Very popular, Sir Douglas Clegg and Lady Clegg, very popular characters in Hong Kong for many years, and he was a very fine businessman. Lady Clegg has kept the tradition up here with some very useful horses, and it's nice to see her colours being carried here at Goodwood. This filly, as I was saying, has got speed to burn here. I'm just wondering how she's going to handle the ground. Most of her best efforts have been on good ground. Today, the ground's getting pretty soft, Jim.
Yes, in fact, she had a run on the soft at Leopardstown 2 starts ago, and she got lost there. She finished 7th in that race, so you'd be wondering about today. Here's a filly, though, who should like it, number 8, Gara. I know Henry Cecil was very hopeful last time that she ran. She was a fraction disappointing, but I think she's going to like it today. Well, the betting activity starting to hot up a bit. Graham Rock's our man in the ring.
Right, and down here on the edge of the battlefield, we're with Colin Webster, one of our leading independent bookmakers and a man you can really have a bet with. Colin, what's the story of this race?
Well, it's 13 to 8 lock song and 4 Keen Hunter. Not much support for Keen Hunter, actually. In fact, there's not much support for anything at the moment. We're hoping for a move soon from Ladbrokes, probably, for the favourite.
And what about the outsiders? Any moves of those?
No, we've seen no money at all. It's very, very quiet.
So really it's lock song on the one and no interest in much else?
Lock song will be the worst come the time of the race.
Right, well, thank you very much indeed, Colin. So there we are, Lock Song's the one they come for. Not much else fancied here. Lock Song will be a blow for the bookmakers if she wins.
There's number 5, Blighton Lad. Shouldn't think the bookies will be that worried about him. He's 16 to 1 from 14s and on the drift as well.
This is not a bad type of horse, Jim, but in fact he burst a blood vessel at York in May, and he had to be pulled up. Well, we saw Symphonic put in that bad run here yesterday in the Sussex, and you're always a little bit wary of when horses do burst blood vessels, and well, it's a thing that is a problem with quite a lot of racehorses. There is Blighton Lad. Let's hope he doesn't do one today.
Okay, on you go with Blighton Lad, please.
One of the riders dismounting there. He's quickly back in the saddle. I think that might have been Walter Swinburne. Number 7 is Bunty Boo, and she ran the race of her life in the King's Stand. She really looked like for a couple of strides as if she was could have almost won it. She's been racing in everything this year and running well. She was second to Lock Song at Sandown, beaten recently though at Chester, and that was on soft ground.
Don't think I've ever seen her run a bad race. I bet she's a lovely ride too.
Well, the runners down at the post in the mist there, and let's cross now. Let's see how they're betting on this King George.
It's a pretty slow market. Lock Song hasn't changed from the first show. 13 to 8 favourite, and Keen Hunter is 4 to 1. Paris House 5 to 1. Marina Park, that's got out to 8 to 1 from 7s. Gara 10 to 1 from 9s. Blighton Lad 16 to 1. 25 to 1, 2 of them. Freddie Lloyd and El Yassaf. Bunty Boo suddenly took off to 33 to 1. Sovereign Grace and Artistic Grief are still 50 to 1.
Number 6 is El Yassaf, trained by Joe Norton, who had the opening winner at this glorious Goodwood meeting this year in Comanche Companion. And Al Yassaf just disappearing there behind the front of the stalls, or going into the stalls.
He'll be coming out of stall 9, in fact, and I think that the low numbers are going to have the call here, really, because they've got the rail to run up, the fastest ground. We've got Keen Hunter, he's 7, out of somewhere near the middle of the track. Artistic Reef, he's coming out of 2. Blighton Lad, in fact, has got the 1 rail. And, well, as I was saying, Jim, it's a big help if you can get that rail to run down. Also, there's a strip of ground down there. In the old days, the starter's car always went down there, which made the ground compacted, and it was always riding that bit faster. Artistic Reef there, one of the big outsiders at 50 to 1.
Yes, ridden by Richard Quinn, who, of course, has been mulling over the offer to go to Hong Kong. I think he's the 3rd or 4th rider from these parts to be asked out there. But the latest I have heard that he's going to decline. And the position with trainer Gary Ting Kern, one of the young up-and-coming trainers in Hong Kong, is now left open once again.
This horse, in fact, Artistic Reef turned in a bad run on his last start. That was in the July Cup when he was, in fact, last, but he did start last of the 12 runners, that was, but he was 100 to 1 there.
Well, there they are at the start. In the background there, the grey, Sovereign Grace, Keen Hunter there, waiting patiently, just getting, maybe not so patiently, really, just getting a little bit anxious about it. This 6-year-old by Darcis. And John Gosden has done a great job with him and been very protective of him. He's been looking for give in the ground all the time. Artistic Reef just giving a little bit of bother there, coming forward with the blindfold on.
Handlers do a really great job here, as you can see. It's no easy task. Lock Song 13 to 8 now. Keen Hunter 4s from 7 to 2. Paris House 9 to 2 from 5s, and they go 8 to 1 bar those 3s. And there is Walter Swinburne on Keen Hunter. They're going into spool 7. And as you were saying, John Gosden's got him turned out beautifully.
Well, the last couple going forward now. There's Marina Park going forward now. Time to join Peter O'Sullivan.
Dean McEwen looking for his 2nd winner of the afternoon, and a double for Mark Johnson if this fill is successful. Certainly not giving the handlers any help at the moment. Going to put the blindfold on her, I think. Marina Park with the hood. We'll just give her a turn now.
Let's go.
Just getting a little bit stirred up now. It was looking beautiful and cool such a short time ago. Mind you, can't see a lot more from the stands than she can see at the moment. Now go on, girl. The other 10 waiting for her. It's Blighton Lad nearest to us. That's it, she's in. 5 furlongs, winners of 48 races between them, and they're running. And blazing the trail, Paris House, one of those up there in the early stages. That's Blighton Lad towards the left of the picture. Garrel was a little bit slow out of the stalls. And Lock Song is the leader from Paris House. Lock Song and Paris House, these two, Lock Song and Paris House. Blighton Lad on the right of the picture. Lock Song, see that sheepskin noseband. Lock Song and Paris House, the grey towards the right of the picture. Lock Song from Paris House. Artistic Reef just in behind him, and then last year's winner Freddie Lloyd also. But it's Lock Song, the leader from Paris House. They're inside the final 2 furlongs. Gara, who was slowly away, absolutely tailed off. They're racing down towards the furlong marker. Lock Song and Paris House, these two now being chased by Keen Hunter, but it's Paris House on the near side, Lock Song on the far side. Lock Song and Paris House are locked together. Paris House on the near side, Lock Song on the far side. It's going to be a photo. Lock Song and Paris House in a photo. Lock Song has won it from Paris House with Keen Hunter 3rd and Marina Park 4, but it's a photo, of course, a photo. And so Jeff Smith with another heart-stopping photograph. He had the last one go in his favour with Philidor, and it looks as though he's done it again with Lock Song, the favourite in the King George, having just held Paris House in the closing stages. Number 9 from number 2, Paris House, with Keen Hunter, a fast finishing and close third. That's how it looks. See what you think as we see, or do we see, the closing stages.
Well, what a terrific duel between these two speedsters. From the jump off, it was a duel between Lock Song, the flying filly on the far side, the Stewards' Cup winner, and Paris House on this side. They had the race between them. It was only in the last furlong or so that Keen Hunter joined battle and started to pull them back. But Lock Song, hands and heels, Frankie Dettori. What a brave mare this is, handles the ground. Paris House, meanwhile, not quite so happy on the ground. He may even have got his head in front halfway through the final furlong, but he's just coming back to John Carroll now, not so happy in this rain-softened ground. And it's just in the last few strides of the race that Lock Song, beautifully ridden by Frankie, forges ahead again. Look at Frankie pushing out, asking this filly to extend. Meanwhile, Keen Hunter closing all the time under Walter Swinburne, another 50 yards, and who knows which way it would have gone. But at the line, there's no doubt it's Lock Song from Paris House and Keen Hunter. Well, what a marvellous mare this is, and she's come back to herself. A terrific big race double this for Jeff Smith, who owns the Littleton Stud in Hampshire, local owner. He's such a lucky man at Goodwood, and this filly, her return to form, will have given him such terrific pleasure. As we heard from Jonathan Powell, the filly went home after a disappointing run, came back, is right back to her best now, and the longer the summer goes on, the stronger she's going to get. Meanwhile, the Grey has run a marvellous race, but just met one too good for him on this rain-softened ground, but really lost nothing in defeat. Paris House, bought already to be a stallion next season. He's shown he's a very, very fast horse. And Keen Hunter, well, the flying 5 at Goodwood was just too fast for him.
Well, still waiting the official outcome of the photo, but little doubt that this horse, Paris House, this game little horse, Paris House, is second, and that Lock Song has won the 8th of her 16 races. What a marvellous race record she has. This is the fast finishing third, Keen Hunter, and here is the mare herself, of whom Timeform wrote percipiently recently, the ideal type for the King George Stakes at Goodwood. Yes, she sure is. So Frankie Dettori, when we hear the number 9 called, will get his second winner on the board in the Ritz Club Charity Trophy, leaving Pat Edery, the leader, with 3 winners, John Reed and Frankie Dettori, both on the 2 mark, subject to the number 9 being called, and I think we're going to hear that very soon. And here comes the official result now of the King George.
The winner, number 9.
First, number 9, Lock Song, a great cheer from the crowd. Second, number 2, Paris House. Third, number 1, Keen Hunter. Fourth, number 10, Marina Park.
Number 9, Lock Song. Second, number 2,
so,
Paris House. Third, number 1, Keen
Lock
Hunter.
Song
Fourth, number 10,
by
Marina
Song
Park.
out of Peckett's Well by Lochnagar, wins her second race over the course.
For the winner, Lock Song, 1 minute, 0.
And the starting prices after this head and a neck photo as follows.
First, number 9, Lock Song, 13-8 favourite. Second, number 2, Paris House, 9-2. And third, number 1, Keen Hunter. Mr. Bailey is the favourite still, 13-8, back to 13-8 from 7-4. Lomas has come down a little from 100 to 30 to 3-1. That's the second favourite. Prince Baba, 9-2. That's also reduced a little. Classic Sky, 6-1. Botate 16s, and Mr. Eubanks, which, remember, was 12-1 when the betting began, is now 20-1. And Botet, you see there, has gone to 14 from 16s.
Number 7 is Prince Baba, trained by Gavin Pritchard Gordon for his brother Giles, ridden by Frankie Dettori, and earlier this week we saw, well, yesterday we saw First Trump win the Richmond Stakes in good style. Well, Prince Baba third to first trump last time in the July Stakes at Newmarket. And I suppose strictly on the form book, he must be thereabouts.
The ground was riding very fast that day. He's got different ground here altogether. He was 20-1. Willie Carson rode him, but as you say, that was a really cracking run, and he wasn't beaten all that far. So that's got to put him in with a chance if he can handle this much softer ground.
Well, there are two types of glorious Goodwood weather, of course. The first is that when we're bathed in glorious sunshine, and then the second type is miserable, misty and damp. And unfortunately, we've got the latter here today. Somebody up the top has been tampering with that thermostat, I think. Well, in the first event, 7 furlongs is the trip. It's the Lanson Champagne Vintage Stakes. And there is the course.
It's a pretty easy track to ride, this one, Jim. You run downhill for the first bit, and then a nice, open, easy swinging turn into the straight. Running downhill nearly all the way until you get to the about the furlong and a half marker, and then you start to climb. This is when you hope that you're going to pull the leaders back if you're holding them up.
Number 2 is Beau Tet, trained by Simon Dow and ridden by Lester Piggott. Beau Tet has only had the one start so far, a winner here at Goodwood, but it would be a little bit of a surprise if he was thereabouts, I thought.
Yeah, he ran a good race here, in fact, winning a maiden, but he ran very green that day, so you wouldn't really be able to assess him. He's going to know much more about the game today. That race has done him good. Lester's looking for his 30th win of the season. Maybe he's riding as well as ever, in my opinion, but a few years ago he'd have been, I think, roughly somewhere near 130 winners.
Number 6 is Mr. Eubanks, trained by Paul Calloway. John Reed in the saddle as they start to line up now. Last time 4th in the Superlative Stakes. Well, this winner has thrown up 3 very good colts in the last decade. 2 classic winners and a King George winner. Mr. Bailey 7-4, Lomas 11-4, Prince Barber 4-1, 6's bar. Last one going in. Let's join Peter.
That's Mr. Bailey's. Lomas nearest to us. Looking in with you today. And as they jump off, Lomas towards the left of the picture. And nobody very keen to make it. Quite a steady pace early on. Lomas towards the left. Prince Baybar's up with them. And just in behind them towards the right of the picture, Mr. Bailey's. And also Mr. Eubanks. Between Lomas and Mr. Bailey's. Lomas the leader. From Mr. Eubanks and Mr. Bailey's. Those 3 ahead of Prince Baybar and Classic Sky. And the back marker is Beau Tet, as Lomas leads them round this turn from Mr. Eubanks, showing with his white face on the outside, the right of the picture, Mr. Bailey's. Just in behind them comes Prince Baybar with Classic Sky. Lomas being chased along there by Alan Munro. Mr. Eubanks, Dean McEwen sitting cozily at the moment on Mr. Bailey's. And Mr. Bailey's coming to challenge now as they pass the 2 furlong pole. Mr. Bailey's showing there with his white face in the lead from Lomas over on the far side. They're being chased by Prince Baybar, but coming down to the furlong pole. And Mr. Bailey's going clear, striding away, as it looked as though he would have done at Newbury if he hadn't got in a pocket. Mr. Bailey is striding away from Prince Baybar. Classic Sky, who beat him at Newbury, is way back in 4th, and Mr. Bailey's wins the opener from Prince Baybar in 2nd and Lomas 3rd, and Classic Sky 4. 5 is Mr. Eubanks, and 6th and last is Beau Tet. And so the result: first, number 5, Mr. Bailey's, owned by GR Bailey Limited. Bailey's Horse Feeds, trained by Mark Johnson and ridden by Dean McEwen. Second was number 7, Prince Baybar, owned by Mr. Giles Pritchard Gordon, trained by Gavin Pritchard Gordon and ridden by Frankie Dettori. And third was number 4, Lomas, the long-time leader, owned by Prince Fahd Salman, trained by Richard Hannon and ridden by Alan Munro. Fourth was the horse Classic Sky that beat the luckless Mr. Bailey's at Newbury.
And today, Mr. Bayliss was able to show his true ability. He was drawn on the outside. Dean McEwen didn't take any chances. No pace early on. After a couple of furlongs, Alain Monroe decided to go on Lomas, but he was already in trouble at the 2.5 furlong marker. And Dean McEwen allowed his mount to cruise into the lead. What a smashing, long-striding horse this is. Just for a moment, Walters Winburn loomed up on the outside on Classic Sky and threatened to make a race of it, but with inside the two, Walters gone for his whip, and there was no response. The first time he's run on soft ground. And now the closest challenger was Prince Barber, who ran such a marvellous race at the July meeting, and he's run another good race today for Frankie Dettori. But the winner was in no danger at all. Look at that stride on this horse. This is the way he should have won at Newbury, and there's plenty to come from him. He handled the ground well, perfect ground for him probably. A big heavy-topped horse like this. Look at the way he flicks his toe out, so he's probably going to be able to act on any ground. I think this is a really good horse, and this was just another part of his education. And Mark Johnson, who worked so hard, was up at 6 o'clock yesterday morning going racing in the north, now down at Goodwood, enjoys his first Goodwood success of 1993. Here's the big horse galloping along. Dean McEwen, who found himself in such an unhappy position at Newbury, can happen to the best jockeys, just really had to ride hands on heels today, just kept his horse balanced, and in fact the horse handled the track pretty well considering his size, but of course easier to do so when there is this bit of cut in the ground. He came into the turn 3 wide and handled it well. But look at the way he flicks his toe out there. He's a real galloper, this horse, and he could stay too. He certainly stay a mile and a quarter next year, and perhaps up to a mile this season. Horses who won this race, the Lanson Champagne, have gone on to great things in recent years, and there's no reason why this horse shouldn't be one of the good ones. But Prince Barber in second place has run a marvellous race.
And being led into the winner's circle, the first northern-trained winner of the Lanson Champagne Stakes in its 18 years history. This the 19th running this afternoon of the race, which has featured 2 subsequent Derby winners in its 18 years of existence. And Mr. Bayliss by Robolino out of Thimble Rigger by Sharpen Up. Winner of 2 of his 3 races, this 13-8 favourite, and very unlucky not to have an unbeaten record. But as Julian said, any jockey can get shut in with no guarantee whatever your ability against that. And this number 65 of the season for Dean McEwen. The distance is 2.5 lengths and 1.5 lengths, and a 51st winner of what is a marvellous season for the Midland trainer Mark Johnson. This handsome horse bought for 10,000 guineas as a foal and passed on at a mere 10,500 of it. Well, not even a profit, a loss really with the keep. Of course it would be a loss as a yearling. This very handsome horse actually bought back for that price. And the starting prices on this 1993 Lanson Champagne as follows.
First, number 5, Mr. Bailey is 13-8 favourite. Second, number 7, Prince Barber, 4-1. And third, number 4, Lomas, 3-1. There were 6 runners. And Assessor still on, 6-4 favourite. Sonus, 4-1. A Magical Retreat has gone to co-third favourite, or joint third favourite with Giacomo. They're 10-1, these two. Not in doubt, 12-1. Arcadian Heights drifted to 14s to join Daru, same price, 14-1. Jack Button, 16-1 from 20s. And Anne Bonny has drifted out to 20-1 from 16.
Sonus going down now, the first set of Sheikh Mohammed's colours. Runner-up in the St. Ledger last year behind User Friendly, a particularly good run, and seemed to return to form, I thought, last time, with his second to Always Friendly at Newmarket prior to that had also been placed there as well. I'm quite surprised, actually, that he's been shunned by punters so far.
It's rather interesting to see he's having a visor put on for the first time by his trainer, John Gosden, Jim. And I've often thought that this horse maybe, although he's got a pretty consistent record and he's run good races, I just wondered if he's quite done it towards the last half furlong. He's been there, but it's going to be interesting just to see how much they have improved this horse, if they have.
Yes, he's by Sadler's Wells, of course, the sire, if you're talking about sires, and you don't normally expect to see them in these 2-milers. Daru is the grey horse, and he might be pretty hard to find in the mist for Peter, but there he is there, and I really do think he's an old monkey, this horse, Daru. He's won 6 of his 12 starts, I know, but I don't really think he's put his heart into his last couple of runs.
No, and if you remember, Jim, he was the horse that Steve Cawthon got into a little bit of trouble with last year, because in fact, so the boys tell me, that when he does run his fastest is when you actually hit him down the shoulder. I'm not a great fan of hitting horses down the shoulder, but when Steve used to do it, in fact, he didn't put any weight behind the whip. It was just like a stroke. But I'm afraid some other jockeys are inclined to hit them a little bit hard, and it's not the place to hit them.
This horse, Daru, is one of 7 European entries in this year's Melbourne Cup, and John Gosden telling me before that he's got 2 in there. One of them is Briar Creek, and one of them is this horse. And this has 8 stone 6 pound in this year's Melbourne Cup. Well, Graham Rock has some news for us in the ring now.
And down here in the ring, assessors still firm, but punters are looking beyond the favourites. Good money for Magical Retreat, but also there's good money for Di Giacomo, the outsider of John Dunlop, 16 to 1 into 10 to 1.
And the runners arriving down at the post now, and this race was 3 years ago. They reduced the distance from 2.5 down to 2 miles. I don't know that I'm a great fan, really, of these reduction in distances, because I think it tends to encourage people to breed a horse who doesn't get an extreme distance.
I'm with you, Jim, but before we have a look at any more of the horses, let's have a full show betting.
And another outsider they're very interested in is Jack Button. That opened at 20s, has now dropped almost suddenly to 14 to 1. But Assessor is still the favourite, 11 to 8. Sonus 4 to 1, Magical Retreat, and Di Giacomo 10 to 1. Not in Doubt 12s. Arcadian Heights 14s, Daru 14 to 1, Jack Button 14 to 1, and Anne Bonny is 20 to 1.
In Australia and the United States these days, the extreme distances are unheard of. In fact, in America, if there's a race over 1.5 miles, the jockeys take a packed lunch. There's number 6, Not in Doubt, trained by Henry Candy, and was very well in at Newcastle in the Northumberland Plate there, but couldn't catch high flying at all. Won by 7 lengths, that horse, and I think the bird had flown halfway up the straight.
I'm sure you're right, he was out the Salon running that day, Jim. But this horse is a nice horse. He was a little bit off the bridle after about halfway. He couldn't go the pace, but he was pegging them back. He finished 4th, in fact. And, well, in this rain-softened ground here, I don't think that's going to trouble him too much, although he has showed his best form on sound services. I have heard a little bit of a whisper that he can also run a fair race on this.
Runners circling at the stalls at the moment. There's number 5, Jack Button. I must confess he's one of my real favourites, Jack Button. He's such a tough horse, this gelding by Kings Lake, and he proved it at Royal Ascot by running twice in 3 days and being placed both times. Just run out of it in the Queen Alexandra.
Yeah, and he loves Haydock, this horse. He's unbeaten in 5 starts there, so that's his favourite track, I would say. And he's 14s from 16s, and I believe he opened as 20s as well. So there's a fair bit of money coming for Jack Button. Jack Button has got Nigel Day in the saddle.
Tough and genuine, honest as the day is long. Well, number 7 is Anne Bonny. She's an interesting runner because she's by a July Cup winner, believe it or not, Ajdal. I know he did run in the Derby, but he reverted to the sprinting distance a month later to win the July Cup, and he's out of a Ribblesdale winner in Sally Brown.
She was by Posse, Jim, which really, best form was around about a mile, so it beats me where Anne Bonny's getting her stamina from.
Yeah, she's certainly got a bit of it, and trained by James Fanshawe, and in the now famous Thompson colours. Not exactly the same as Party Politics carried in the Grand National.
This is the first time, in fact, I think that she's raced beyond a mile and a half, so it's going to be interesting. I think we'll see probably Walter Swinburne giving her plenty of chance to see the 2 miles out today. See there, Walter, 2 pair of goggles, one clear, one with some colour in them, and the American jockeys sometimes on the dirt go out with 5 or 6 pairs, pulling them down one at a time.
What stage of the journey do you think he might be reaching for the second pair?
Well, that's rather interesting. I think if he is riding up from behind, I think this is a good sign that he's going to hold this filly up. I should think he'll go a good mile and then put them down just before they turn the pace on at that bottom turn.
Well, a couple we haven't seen. Di Giacomo, number 8, in the Mazza colours, and trained by John Dunlop. Money has come for this horse, who's done most of his running in Italy, and last time second in the Italian St. Leger.
Willie Carson in the saddle, Jim, and Willie, when you look at him there, he's a great little horseman. This Willie is one of the few flat race jockeys that rides to hounds across country, and in fact he owes that skill to a man called Ted Williams, one of our greatest showmen. Ted Williams, who rode that super horse Pegasus, and he was a very famous show jumper. And Ted, I'm sorry to hear that you're not very well in hospital in Leicestershire. We all here wish you a speedy recovery.
Well, the latest betting now on the Tiffany Goodwood Cup.
And the money is still drawn towards those outsiders. Giacomo, for instance, opened at 16s, now 9-1. Assessor 11-8, the favourite. Sonus 4-1 still. Giacomo 9-1. Magical Retreat 10s from 14s. Arcadian Heights is 12-1 from 14s. Not in Doubt, and Daru and Jack Button all 14-1, and Anne Bonny still on 20-1.
9 is Magical Retreat, trained by Charles Sizer, and Darren Biggs aboard today. Bit of a move for Magical Retreat this afternoon. 10-1 from 14s. She surprised everyone when she won the Pretty Polly at Newmarket earlier this season. She really caught them by surprise. She's had a lot of racing. In fact, I think this is her 8th start of the season, so she's standing up to it well.
Like the other filly, Anne Bonny, we've just had a look at. She's running a 2 mile for the first time, 1.5 miles the furthest she's been. And in fact, she's shown most of her best form over 1.25 miles. It's going to be interesting because they actually will take a bit of getting round here on this rain-softened ground. Assessor 6-4, Sonus 4-1, Dear Giacomo at 9-1, Magical Retreat at 10s from 14s. Quite a lot of money from that, 12-1 bar. Now we go to Peter.
Yes, well, they've got to be able to run in the mist as well as in soft ground in this Goodwood Cup run for the 3rd time only over 2 miles. Run over 3 back in 1812 when it was initiated. That's Not in Doubt going in. Giacomo, Di Giacomo, or Giacomo, whichever you like. Willie Carson bidding for his 5th Goodwood Cup. Son of Lady Beaverbrook's great tough horse Bastino, this. Doesn't care enormously for the look of these English stalls, but he's contented to enter them all right. And that's it, Assessor, the last in, and they're away. 2 miles in this very thick mist, and Not in Doubt, one of the first to show. Not in Doubt under John Reed, Di Giacomo on the outside. Not in Doubt and Di Giacomo from just in behind them, Arcadian Heights, the sheepskin nose band. Then Assessor towards the left. Then is Magical Retreat, the filly, one of the 2 fillies, the other being Anne Bonny, and Willie Carson going on Di Giacomo from Not in Doubt. Then Assessor, the favourite, on the near side, Arcadian Heights on the far side, then Magical Retreat. Behind Magical Retreat comes Anne Bonny, and the back marker at the moment is Sonus. Sonus in the first colours of Sheikh Mohammed, the grey Daru in the second colours just ahead of him, but Di Giacomo making this quite a strong pace now by about 2 to 3 from Not in Doubt, who's got a 1.5 lengths to 2 lengths up on Assessor. Then comes Arcadian Heights getting a little bit closer, Magical Retreat. Behind them, Jack Button. Behind Jack Button is Anne Bonny. Behind Anne Bonny is Daru, and finally is Sonus, and still De Giacomo and Willie Carson making it from Not in Doubt. Assessor Arcadian Heights on the far side, relegating Assessor now to fourth. Magical Retreat on the near side, making a little bit of ground. Assessor losing a little bit of ground at that point. De Giacomo, the leader from Not in Doubt, getting a lot closer now. Arcadian Heights on the outside, Assessor, Magical Retreat and Anne Bonny, and then Jack Button. Right over the far side, and Willie Carson still dictating it on De Giacomo, with now Assessor going back into second place. Arcadian Heights over on the far side, then Not in Doubt, then Magical Retreat, and still De Giacomo and Willie Carson. From on the right of the picture, the sheepskin noseband Arcadian Heights. Towards the far left is Magical Retreat. Between Magical Retreat and De Giacomo is the favorite Assessor, and just in behind them, Not in Doubt. Racing uphill now, beginning to breast to rise. De Giacomo, Assessor, and on the right, Arcadian Heights. Magical Retreat over on the very far left. Sonus has made a little bit of ground in behind the lead. Not in Doubt is still maintaining his position, running downhill now, and as they do so, it's De Giacomo, the leader, from Arcadian Heights, and Assessor and Magical Retreat, and Not in Doubt towards the far side, with also Jack Button and Bonny in the center of the field. De Giacomo, Arcadian Heights. De Giacomo just the leader from Arcadian Heights. Assessor between horses, and Bonny coming there. Not in Doubt still well in contention, second on the right of the picture as we see them coming down past the 3 furlong pole and racing towards the 2 now, and Assessor has gone to the front from Arcadian Heights. Magical Retreat on the far side, and Bonny putting in a good run too. They're past the 2 pole, and Assessor being pressed all the time by Arcadian Heights, and Sonus coming there very strongly now. Assessor now from Arcadian Heights and Sonus as they hit the furlong pole, and Sonus coming with a great run on the far side of Assessor. Assessor and Sonus now, they have it between them. Sonus still challenging Assessor as they race up towards the line. Sonus is quickening and looks as though he's going to win it, and at the line Sonus has won it from Assessor. Second, Arcadian Heights third. Fourth was Not in Doubt, and 5 Anne Bonny, and 6 Jack Button, 7 Magical Retreat, 8 is Daru, and last is the long-time leader De Giacomo. And so the result of the Tiffany Goodwood Cup of 1993. First, number 3, Sonus, owned by Sheikh Mohammed, trained by John Gosden, and ridden and brilliantly ridden by Pat Edery, takes him to the top of the Ritz Club Charity Trophy. Second was number 1, Assessor, owned by Mr. B. Nielsen, trained by Richard Hannon and ridden by Richard Quinn. And third was number 2, Arcadian Heights, owned by Mr. John Pierce, trained by Jeff Ragg and ridden by Frankie Dettori. Very close for fourth between Not in Doubt and Anne Bonny, but Pat Edery has ridden his 4th Gold Cup winner at Goodwood.
Well, this was the ultimate stairs race. Pat Edery last coming down the hill, still last with 2.5 furlongs to go. There he is, 4 from the left here, as Assessor up front, forging into the lead from Arcadian Heights. Anne Bonny flatters for a moment, but now Pat just starts to ask his horse to improve. Visored for the first time today, question mark in his mind whether he'd get the trip in this rain-softened ground. Second in the ledger, but that doesn't mean to say you're going to stay 2 miles. And having got on the heels of Assessor here, he just tucks in, takes a little breather, gives him a breast until furlong out he decides to pull out, and now he says go. But without asking the horse to do anything that would unbalance him or in any way affect his breathing. Richard Quinn must have thought he'd got the Goodwood Cup in his pocket, but then, to his horror, he sees Pat Edery looming up on his right on Sonus, who doesn't even know that he's been in a race. He was ridden like the ultimate non-trier today. He's got his blinkered head in front about 25 yards from the line to go away to gain a spectacular success in this Tiffany's Goodwood Cup. That was the supreme artistry of a great jockey, and he's won a Goodwood Cup, which 3 furlongs out, no one who backed the horse could possibly have believed that he could have won. And he's drifted from 5 to 2 out to a starting price of 4 to 1. What a ride by Pat Edery. on this good-looking son of Sadler's Wells, who'd been third and second in his 2 previous races, and John Gosden decided to fit the visor on today. They've whipped it off now, you'll see, for the photographs. And Pat, after the disappointment of Symphonic yesterday, has got a real look of pride and satisfaction on his face right now.
I think this one gave Pat a lot of pleasure. What a beautiful ride he gave this horse. Amazingly industrious champion. He won the 520 here yesterday afternoon, then went on to Epsom. He hadn't had enough of it, and actually rode his last winner of the day at 8:40 on Bobby Soxer at Epsom, and now dismounting from the Tiffany Goodwood Cup winner Sonus by Sadler's Wells out of Sound of Success by Successor. The starting prices as follows.
First, number 3, Sonus, 4-1. Second, number 1, Assessor, 6-4 favourite. And third, number 2, Arcadian Heights, 14-1. The 240 at Yarmouth, first, number 3, Rocco Morada, 7-2. Second, number 8, Adam Paris, 14-1. And third, number 1, Jahangir, 5-2 favourite. And at Yarmouth, the 3-5, first, number 2, Joby, 9-2. Second, number 4, Join the Clan, 6-4 favourite. And third, number 5, Spring High, 9-2, 5 ran.
Great triumph last weekend at Ascot. Opera House in the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Diamond Stakes. Pat Edery just getting on the scales with Ray Cochrane to go aboard next. John Reed, not in doubt. Should have run in the Goodwood Stakes this one. He'd have had a better chance. And here, for a moment, it looked as though Assessor had the race. But then once Sonus came back on the bridle, and he was off the bridle a furlong before we see them now. Once he's come back on the bridle, then Pat Edery really has this horse in his sights. And Sonus is just content to cruise up to Assessor, who was runner-up in the Ascot Gold Cup and now has to be a runner-up in the Goodwood Cup. He fights and fights all the way, Assessor, but this horse, this Sadler's Wells product, much too strong for him. Pat Edery's 4th Goodwood Cup winner. Here's Jonathan Powell.
Hello, George. Hi, John. Bit of hush, please. Thank you. With me, yes, the winning trainer, John Gosden. I must say, it was a beautiful piece of riding by Pat Edery.
Yes, he dropped him out. The horse, obviously, I didn't put a visor on for no reason. We didn't feel he went through with it last time, and he dropped him out like the horse was never in the race, then involved him, and then took a pull, one out, let him have a breather, and then come again at the line. I mean, Pat thinks like a horse sometimes.
Last year he was placed in the St Ledger, placed second, but he hadn't run over this trip before. How sure were you that he would get the 2 miles?
I was confident he'd get the trip. But I must say, in his last run last year, we lost a little bit of confidence in the horse. The Ledger, he was second, yes, but somebody had to be second. User-friendly won very comfortably. And if you look at the form of the race, it didn't necessarily stack up that well. Somebody had to be second. He was the horse who ran on to be second. He was also second, the Great Voltager, but 2 miles, obviously, is no problem to him.
And did Pat feel that the visor helped him?
I haven't asked him yet. I couldn't get to him with the squash, but my opinion is that it kept him just concentrating. The idea of it is simply that a horse concentrates more. Rather than spending all his time looking about and behind him, he just concentrates on what he's doing.
John, this is your 6th year back here in England after a long spell in California.
Actually, it's about 4th or 5th, I think, but not 6th. I'm not that old yet, yeah.
What do you think now on a day like this? It's pouring with rain, you're missing the sunshine and the decent weather in California. Are you pleased to be back here on a permanent basis?
I like it very much. I mean, the last 3 years at Goodwood, if you remember, it's been in the 80s, and we've all been sitting here dripping with sweat. Poor Jeff. I mean, he looked very hot last year. And, you know, so we get a bit of an English summer's day. This is an English summer's day, traditional type.
And coming up to the Breeders' Cup at the end of the year, would you like to go back to California with 1 or 2 candidates?
It would be nice to go back with a horse, obviously. If you're not good enough to stack up in the main races, then maybe you can go in a supporting race. Certainly it would be nice to go back. I have Wolfhound in mind if I can get him right for the mile, interestingly enough.
News has come through today that Symphonic won't run in this country again. If he does run again, it'll be in America because he can receive medication for the bleeding problem. Can you explain some of the things that are used to stop bleeding with horses in America?
Yes, the main thing used there is a drug called Lasix, which is a diuretic. It's used for people. If someone doesn't have a good circulation, their legs fill up, they'll use Lasix to act as a diuretic. And it seems to affect horses in the extent that they don't hemorrhage into their lungs. And that's an unfortunate thing, and it happened to Sophonik yesterday. It's very sad when it happens.
And can you train a horse on Lasix for 3 or 4 years?
Oh, yes, that is no problem. To that extent, it's kind because they never hurt, you see.
Anyway, that's a cracking result for you today. I hope you never have to use Lasix with this horse. He looked very genuine.
I don't think he needs it too much. You look like you're going to get 3 today.
By Basil Marcus. 2 is Al Hijaz, Willie Carson. 3, Inner City, Ray Cochrane. 4, Culture Vulture, Richard Quinn. 5, Odd King Glass, Willie Rahn. 6, Big Stone from France, ridden by Dominique Boeuf. 7, Inchinor, Frankie Dettori. 8, Tinner's Way, Paul Edry. 9 is Zaphonic, ridden by Pat Edry. And 10, the winner of the 1,000 guineas, Sayadati, ridden by Walter Swinburne. Here's how they bet at the moment.
Fractionally odds on, Zaphonic the favourite, 5-4 on. The second favourite, Inchinor, is 5-1 against, and Ardinglass and Sayadati 8-1. Even money, the favourite's gone now. Inner City 10-1. Big Stone 12s. Alora 14-1. Alflora rather 14-1. Al Hijaz 20-1, and on 25-1 Culture Vulture, 33-1 Tinner's Way.
And they're away. And as they settle down, Alflora, 2 from the inside, goes on under Basil Marcus. Tinner's Way coming over from the far side. Odd King Glass is right up with the lead 2, and Zaphonic is actually the back marker, and Tinner's Way, his lead horse, is making it from Alflora and Odd King Glass and Inchinor towards the right of the picture. Zaphonic still right in rear, taking a very strong hold under Pat Edry, still trying to settle him. Tinner's Way's rider looks over his right shoulder to see where he's got to, and he's got one behind him now, and that's Sayadati with Culture Vulture upsides him, and Tinner's Way runs this turn, making towards the home straight now with just half a mile to run in the Sussex Stakes. Tinner's Way the leader, and Tinner's Way's rider looking over Paul Edry, looking to see where Zaphonic has got to. Odd King Glass is second, Alflora is third, then comes Inchinor and Al Hijaz, and then Big Stone on the inside. Pat Edry is going to have to challenge on the outside when he makes his move on Zaphonic, but Tinner's Way is still the leader from Alflora and Odd King Glass. Culture Vulture over on the far side, Inchinor, and now Pat Edry asking Zaphonic as they come to the 2 furlong marker, and it's Alflora who's taken it up from Inchinor, and Zaphonic is under pressure, and he's got it to do at the moment, and here comes Sayadati on the outside. Over on the far side, Big Stone has burst through, but Sayadati has taken it up on the near side. It's Sayadati from Big Stone on the far side, Sayadati on the near side. Big Stone fighting his way ahead now, he's going to win it for France. Big Stone has won it, Sayadati is second, Inchinor is third, 4 is Culture Vulture, 5 Al Hijaz, 6 Alflora, 7 is Zaphonic, 8 is Tinner's Way, 9 is Odd King Glass, and 10th and last is that horse who became so upset in the early stages, Inner City. And so the shock result of the 1993 Sussex Stakes is first, number 6, Big Stone, owned by Mr. Daniel Wildenstein, trained by Elie Lelouch and ridden by Dominique Boeuf, the first French-born jockey to win the Sussex Stakes since the war. Second was number 10, Sayadati, owned by Mr. Mohammed Obaida, trained by Clive Britton and written by Walter Swinburne. Third was number 7, Inchinor, owned by Sir Philip Oppenheimer, trained by Roger Charlton, written by Frankie Dettori. And fourth was number 4, Culture Vulture.
First, number 6, Big Stone, 14-1. Second, number 10, Sayadati, 11-1. And third, number 7, Inchinor, 5-1.
And they're running. Stonehatch towards the left, first Trump towards the right of the picture. Fumeur de Londres on the near side now, with Braille just about the leader from Fumeur de Londres. Fumeur de Londres and Braille, the two are cutting it out. Stonehatch is tucked in almost behind Braille towards the left of the picture. Fumeur de Londres towing him along there. Had a good lick under Willie Carson towards the right of the picture. Fumo de Londra from Braille. First Trump has now gone third. Stonehatch 4. 5 is Governor George. Fumo de Londra on the rails towards the outside. Braille trying to become the first Northern Train winner of this Richmond Stakes since back in 1954. But here comes First Trump now to pass Fumo de Londra, and on the outside Stonehatch and First Trump now. First Trump and Stonehatch, these two as they come down to the furlong pole, with First Trump meeting this off ground for the first time, and Stonehatch on the far side. First Trump with the advantage at the moment as they're racing in the final 150 yards. First Trump on the near side, Stonehatch on the far side. First Trump has got a half-length advantage. They come up towards the line, make it into a length. First Trump has won it from Stonehatch, with third Fumo de Londra, fourth was Governor George, and fifth the early pace setter Braille. And so the result of the 1993 Richmond Stakes is first, number 2, First Trump, owned by Moller's Racing, trained by Jeff Ragg and ridden by Michael Hills. Second was number 5, Stonehatch, owned by Mr. Robert Sangster, trained by Peter Chapelheim and ridden by John Reed. And third was number 3, Fumo de Londra, owned by Jerrican Italia, trained by John Dunlop and ridden by Willie Carson, with fourth, number 4, Governor George. So First Trump and not Stonehatch retains his unbeaten record, 4 out of 4.
Another bubble is burst. Didn't really settle early on, Stonehatch, and coming down that hill he made things really difficult for John Reed. The winner settled much better, First Trump. What a lovely horse he is, and he's given Michael Hills the most beautiful ride. There was good pace in the race. Fumo de Londra made it on the stand side. Just for a moment, Governor George flattered on the stand side, but he couldn't quicken. Braille, the Northern Challenger, drops away. Now it becomes a 2-horse race. Michael Hills gets first run on First Trump, and he's a lazy horse, but he really responds to pressure. He had a toughish race at Newmarket. He answered every call, and he's done it again. Just for a moment it looked as though John Reed might be able to galvanize Stonehatch into going past the leader, but there was no more to give on this ground, and in the end, First Trump, who's brave, who gallops, who's a particularly good-looking son of Primo Domine, runs to the line. Michael Hills has put his whip down, holding by a neck, perhaps half a length at the line, to keep an unbeaten record which now stretches 4 races. In fact, it's almost 3 parts at the line. Well, what a wonderful little horse he is. He's returned at 100 to 30, having drifted out from 9 to 4. And this is the head-on picture. John Reed on the left, you can see. One from the left is the winner, and there he is, the winner. And look at the way he sticks his head down and gallops. Michael Hills picks his whip up. Doesn't do a thing, this horse, at home, but by Jove, he does it on the racecourse. And you'll see he gallops home almost straight as a die. Answers every call from Michael Hills. John Reed hasn't wanted to subject his horse to too hard a race, but he's asked him all right. And Stonehatch in this ground, well, he got away with it at Ascot. Today it's a little bit stickier, a little bit deader, and Robert Sangster warned her before the race that perhaps some of his horses were just going off the boil. The 2 of them, you can see, have gone clear from the rest. But First Trump, well, what a smashing horse he is, and he's won the Richmond Stakes. And there he is, and this is what a racehorse should look like in flight. Leading on his right leg, as you can see, or his left leg, which is his right leg, perfectly balanced, responding to his rider's calls, sticking his head and his neck out. A perfect action, and he acts on any ground, this ground, or on top of the ground. Whereas the horse next to him, not so much at ease on the ground, as you can see. And, well, whether the placings will be reversed on faster ground if they meet again at York, who knows. But this horse is going to prove very, very tough to beat. First Trump, winner of 4.
First run in 1877, it was the 6th Duke of Richmond who gave his